Yeah, most of the shootings are done by out of control right wingers with these crazy ideologies, etc. Christian white males is by far the biggest demographic, etc.
Cortell Burks remains in a Bossier Parish jail after a shooting standoff with Bossier City Police left 2 people dead. Police responded to an armed robbery at a gas station in Bossier City Tuesday. According to Bossier City Police, Burks came from inside the gas station and began shooting at the officers, who returned fire. Burks allegedly shot 3 people before being taken into custody. 1 remains in critical condition, while 1 officer was shot and is said to be in stable condition. Burks is wanted in Jefferson County. Jefferson County Sheriff's Office believes he is responsible for stabbing 40-year-old Erica Shante Williams to death in Center Point Sunday.
You can see there were a lot of cops surrounding the Slumberland Motel. That's where they say Al Stenson was holed up. Stenson is the suspect here, and police were taking no chances with this guy, believing him to be extremely dangerous, and for good reason. He is accused of murdering a woman and her 3 children yesterday here in Lake Wales. The mother, according to police, is his girlfriend. Detectives believe the 4 murders happened around 5 in the morning yesterday, but their bodies weren't discovered until around 9 o'clock last night. Now, Stenson does have a criminal record that includes sexual battery, assault and battery, and a number of burglary charges. He would have been facing 4 counts of first-degree murder. Police tell us the victims include a 40-year-old mom, her 21-year-old son, and 2 daughters, ages 17 and 11.
After a massive manhunt, authorities in Atlanta announcing the arrest of the man accused of opening fire inside a doctor's office. Investigators chasing down leads and taking the suspect into custody in Cobb County, north of Atlanta. Earlier today, during their search, police released these surveillance photos of Dion Patterson, warning that he was armed and dangerous. They say that he shot into the waiting room of the medical facility, killing a 39-year-old woman and injuring 4 other women. Police say Patterson tried to carjack a driver in the parking lot and then successfully carjacked a driver a block away. The area locked down for hours before his eventual capture.
He's alive to be able to stand trial, and that shows the professionalism and the great training of all law enforcement in this region.
He just walked from my store, because not even like a 60-second or 80-second, that's like a minute and a half, and I was like step out of the store trying to smoke a cigarette, and I see that. Like between 9 and 8, probably, from 2 different guns, 3 guns, probably, something like that.
This happened around 6:17 near 63rd and King Drive tonight. Paramedics happened to be at the apartment complex treating someone with shortness of breath when the shooting happened. Those first responders then transported the teen boy, initially reported in critical condition. 3 other men, ages 22, 39, and 42, self-transported to U of C Hospital, all shot in their legs, all said to be in good condition. Police are still trying to piece this together, why the shots were fired in the parking lot of Parkway Gardens. The corner store employee we talked to says sadly the scene is nothing new.
When that situation is going to end? When? Every day people losing their life. Every day. 2 cops, 1 here, the other one down the street. Every single day, 24 hours, and that shooting keep happening.
2 men are charged in connection to a deadly shooting that killed 2 people and injuring several others. 25-year-old Kadeem Carter and 32-year-old Mark Mitchell are charged with 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. This is in connection to a Friday shooting that killed 19-year-old Travion Jones and Devin Winchester and injured 3 others near Devereaux Drive. Police are still looking for a 3rd suspect, 22-year-old Jamonte David, for his alleged involvement in the shooting.
Chris Williams, the man accused of that deadly mass shooting at an Ocean Springs downtown restaurant and bar, extradited to Ocean Springs today from Mobile. Williams arrested here in the city last Friday. One person, 19-year-old Chase Harmon, died in that shooting. 6 other people, all innocent bystanders according to police, were wounded, none seriously.
The shooting happened last night a little after 10 p.m. at Exotic Bar and Grill, located at 2837 Cherokee Street. Police say when they got there, they found a 34-year-old man with gunshot wounds to his thigh and elbow. He was taken to a nearby hospital and treated. Officers were told that 2 victims, one man in his 20s and another in his 40s, were taken to a hospital. One suffering from a gunshot wound to his side, the other man suffering from a gunshot wound to his head and chest. They were later pronounced deceased at the hospital. Another victim, a 24-year-old woman, was grazed on her foot.
A staggering 98% of mass shootings are committed by men and disproportionately by white men.
This morning around midnight, we got a call from the area hospital that there was an injured person at the hospital. Deputies arrived, determined that there had been a shooting. They were able to get some information concerning the location of the shooting. Patrol deputies responded to that location, found evidence of a crime. They were able to follow a blood trail. They located a deceased individual there around Pruitt Street and Welch. Investigators arrived on the scene, continuing to expand the crime scene out, looking for additional evidence. They found a second deceased individual. The investigations revealed that 4 individuals were shot just before midnight in that area. 2 have passed away, and 2 are in area hospitals.
In a recent update, the Morehouse Parish Sheriff's Office has arrested Willie Lindarian Williams III. According to authorities, Williams has been booked on 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder.
4 people are injured in a shooting outside of a Vicksburg nightclub. Police say it happened early Saturday morning in the parking lot of a bar on Levy Street. Now, 3 victims were taken to UMMC while the 4th was treated on the scene. Now, 2 people have been taken into custody for questioning. Police Chief Penny Jones met with nightclub owners earlier in the week to discuss security measures. Now, she tells us security responded quickly.
No, I don't. The establishment itself, Jacques, can't stop people from doing what they do. But ultimately, if you know that somebody has a weapon or you know something is going to take place that night, it would be great if they would give that information out. But of course, a lot of times people don't. They just let it happen and then they start talking about it later. I wish I would have said something because I knew. You got to think about. Not only can you get hurt, other people can get hurt. And most of the time, innocent people are the ones who generally get hurt, not the people that they're actually targeting.
Now, police say all 4 victims are in stable condition.
I never would have thought that Keith would have turned and shot at us.
Danae Prince says she was with her boyfriend at a home in South Linden in the early morning of May 6th. She says the night started to take a turn when 29-year-old Keith Pleasant started getting aggressive with his girlfriend.
And he was making little remarks like, oh, I'll kill everybody in here. But we didn't think too much of it because he was Keith and he never did anything like that to make us feel like he would have killed us that night.
That is, until he turned violent. Prince says when Pleasant heard they were calling police because of how he was acting, he came downstairs with a gun. He first shot at Prince's boyfriend, Taez, who was outside of the home about to call 911.
So Taez takes off kind of running towards the house and he starts turning to the side where he's running and he sees me and he shoots me twice.
Prince says one of the bullets hit her in the leg. She then ran and hid behind a trash can outside to call for help.
And I'm like, I don't know if I'm shot twice or once, but I'm on the phone. I'm like, please help me. I don't want to die. Please help my boyfriend. Please, he's been shot.
Prince says she was taken to the hospital along with her boyfriend and another woman. 28-year-old Taylin Rowland was pronounced dead at the scene. Pleasant also turned the gun on himself that night and later died. Prince was hospitalized for several days before being released and now walks with a cane as she continues to recover.
Nothing indicated in those 4 years that he would do what he did that night.
Stephon Pearson and Terry Rowland say their family was celebrating Cinco de Mayo together. But after the celebration, Keith Pleasant turned on them, killing their daughter Taylin and himself. but not before he terrorized the entire family.
Then he just started asking himself and telling himself, you know, everybody can die tonight. And every few minutes he'll look up and he'd be like, y'all want to die tonight?
Taylan's mom says her daughter had a soft spot for Pleasant. Although they were no longer a couple, they lived together.
We are arresting more people than we've ever arrested before. We are definitely holding people accountable for these crimes.
Officers with Columbus Police shared nearly 10 minutes worth of body camera video. That video retrieved from the cameras of 2 officers who were patrolling on foot as the city conducted food truck inspections. The first video starts with 2 officers breaking up several fights, this around 2:37 in the morning. And after dispersing the crowd with mace, a series of shots could be heard around 2:41. You then see officers running with their guns, ultimately handcuffing and removing a gun from one man who was laying bloodied on the ground. In another video, an officer is seen treating another woman just feet away. According to Police Chief Elaine Bryant, there were a total of 10 victims ages 18 to late 20s, and 11 guns were recovered from the scene.
Yesterday, law enforcement revealed the gunfire went on for about 3 minutes before that police officer stopped the shooter. Police know he targeted the area, visiting multiple times in recent months. Law enforcement is now looking into his writings and beliefs.
We are also learning more about the suspect and why investigators think he may have done this. NBC5 Investigates has learned investigators have been searching his social media accounts. Search warrants reference a YouTube video that you see there from the day of the shooting, a Russian social networking site containing pictures of the mall and his Nazi tattoos and beliefs. Investigators believe he actually wanted all of this to be discovered after the attack. Authorities confirmed that the shooter once had a Texas security guard's license, but that license lapsed in recent years. They also said they are trying to learn more about his sudden departure from the U.S. Army and the questions surrounding his fitness for duty. He was discharged in 2008 before he even completed basic training.
Police in Chico have arrested 2 family members in connection to the deadly mass shooting at a house party that happened earlier this month. 18-year-old Oscar Sanchez was taken into custody 2 days after that shooting happened, while 21-year-old Marcos Ayala was arrested yesterday. A third family member, identified as Alejandro Douglas, is on the run and is also wanted regarding a drug conviction coming out of South Carolina. That shooting left a 17-year-old girl dead, 5 others injured, all of them between the ages of 17 and 21. Authorities believe that shooting was gang-related.
Now, at this particular point, they either don't know or not releasing the suspect's description, but we do know that 5 people were on the sidewalk at the time, including, as you mentioned, a teenager, 16 years old, when all of a sudden a person comes up to that group of people and starts firing. We do know that all 5 are rushed to the hospital with serious injuries, but fortunately non-life-threatening injuries, whatever that particularly means, but they are alive at this particular point. They are still searching for the person. They don't know if the person took off from the scene or hopped into a car and sped away.
4 persons were shot at a home rented by students less than a block from Frostburg State University. It happened early Sunday morning. 3 of the victims were students. A 4th person, 20-year-old Ramon Redondo, was shot and died soon after at a nearby hospital. Redondo was not a student. Even though the incident was not on campus, it still caused anxiety.
Oh, goodness. This town is just something else now. And especially with all of us, we're education majors, so seeing all of this really hits close to home.
Growing up here, I never thought we would see this area get this way. It really was sad. I mean, it's really a little bit too close to home for my liking.
Police and campus officials would not speak on camera or elaborate on the incident.
When Officer Joshua Teagarden of the Columbia Police Department arrived in the Plush Lounge parking lot to investigate reports of shots fired, he saw the body of 26-year-old Marvin Hooker III under a blanket, according to the probable cause statement. A witness allegedly stated she saw Spivey shoot and kill Hooker. The witness told police that Hooker was involved in an argument with a group of people before going to the front passenger door of a car and grabbing his gun. That's when the witness said that Spivey approached her and Hooker with a gun in his hand. Hooker cursed at Spivey and the two began to exchange words before Spivey shot him. Police say Spivey also had a gunshot wound and was taken to University Hospital. The 33-year-old previously pleaded guilty to second-degree assault in 2014 and was sentenced to 3 years in the Missouri Department of Corrections.
Today, prosecutors charged Justin Lamar Simpson with murder in the second degree. Detectives received video surveillance from Plush. Simpson was ID'd in the video by witnesses as another one of the men shooting towards the victim and others from the doorway of the lounge. Police have not arrested Simpson yet. Prosecutors charged Samuel Lee Moss Jr., who is in custody, with armed criminal action. The probable cause statement says multiple witnesses ID'd Moss in the video footage as well, also shooting in the direction of the victim. He was arrested yesterday at Douglas Park.
Police say just after 2 Sunday morning, they went to the 2100 block of Branch in St. Louis's Hyde Park neighborhood to investigate a quadruple shooting. Officers found Baker dead in some grass. Her 18-year-old friend, Aaliyah Gillum, also shot to death. Paramedics took 2 other girls, just 17 and 18 years old, to the hospital with gunshot wounds. Neighbors are now comforting and supporting Baker's family.
Oh man, they hurting, man. I mean, it's unspeakable.
Just heartbreaking. I have 4 kids of my own, so my heart pours out to her because I can only imagine as a mother getting that phone call.
The young victim's neighbors echo an outcry we've heard throughout the city. They're fed up with the gun violence.
Of course, we do stay in a city where violence is around now, so a lot of more people feel like they need the guns for their safety, but sometimes they just get in the wrong hands, and the wrong hands take lives.
After voluntarily turning himself in after a nationwide search warrant was issued for his arrest, Parise Larry Jr. appeared in Fond du Lac County Court for the first time as one of 2 suspects now facing charges connected to a shooting at the Maplewood Commons complex Sunday night.
A group of individuals were having a cookout, walking back from taking some trash out, and this defendant and the co-defendant opened fire on that group of individuals, with one victim being shot in the head and killed, another victim being shot and wounded, and there was a 3rd victim in an upper apartment in the complex that was hit by a bullet while sleeping.
During the hearing, the DA added a 4th victim to the complaint who was grazed by a bullet. According to witness statements to police, Larry and the other suspect, Antonio Johnston, targeted one of the victims who they had a disagreement with, who police confirmed fired at least 1 shot back in retaliation. Police also say 2 apartments were struck by gunfire.
I recognize, obviously, the seriousness of the charge. I also recognize, because of the nature of the charge contained in count 9, that we're here in adult court, although I still think it's worth noting that we have a 14-year-old man here, as Attorney Tony has already identified, as someone who has some learning challenges and some intellectual disabilities.
There were 4 victims that were bang-banged in this incident, and 1 person that was unalived from this incident. My niece, she was struck in the head and she was unalived immediately, so she didn't suffer. But like I said at the beginning, the other person on my right, Antonio K. Johnston, he is still out here. There are multiple felony warrants for his arrest in the connection with the bang-banging and the unaliving of my niece. These 2 young men had no qualms for other people's lives. There were children and other people out there in that apartment complex playing and just living their lives.
Just before 10 p.m. Sunday,
for a shooting, 8646 West McCollum Avenue.
Police audio captures the large deployment of police and fire to McCollum Avenue at Thornton Road. San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office tells us deputies arrived to find 4 shooting victims. 1 would later succumb to his injuries. A family relative told me the victim was 19.
I'm telling you, it's a good community out here. It's nice. We don't have this type of problem.
While the nation witnesses back-to-back mass casualties, investigators refer to this as a drive-by shooting. Off camera, neighbors tell me gangs like to hang out at the park late Sunday nights. Occasionally, people will hear something.
Yeah, sometimes I hear the people shout that to the air.
A sheriff spokesperson declined to comment whether detectives are looking into the deadly shooting as gang motivated. But we saw gang signs tagged throughout the park. In a community with less than 1,000 residents, this neighborhood is trying to understand the level of violence it endured Sunday.
The neighbors is good persons, and so everything say hi, but I don't know what happened last night.
A neighbor shot this cell phone video shortly after sheriff's deputies arrived at the corner of Bartlett Avenue and Verbena Road.
And I heard the shooting. I ran inside to get my daughter.
Erica doesn't want us to show her face for safety reasons. She told us the shooting happened just before 1 in the morning on Sunday at the apartment next door to her. She says there was a party at the home for a woman's 20th birthday, and she was at the party for about an hour before going back home.
How many people do you think were there?
At least like 30.
30 people?
30 in a small apartment, yes.
Did it seem like everything was really friendly, no problem?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. Everybody was saying excuse me, being polite. That's what caught me off guard, was that the shooting happened.
Erica says one victim was shot in the head inside the apartment, and at least one other victim was lying on the ground outside with gunshot wounds.
It sounded like a bunch of fireworks, to be honest. That's how bad it was.
According to San Bernardino County Fire, 2 other victims drove a few miles from the scene and met with firefighters at the intersection of Bartlett and Pearman Street. One victim had to be airlifted to Arrowhead Regional Medical Center with critical injuries.
I mean, it's scary because I have 4 little kids and anything could happen, like a lost bullet or something.
Elizabeth Perez is now considering moving her family away from this neighborhood. And she isn't alone.
Because we were just thinking about, considering our options, because we do got kids.
2 of the victims who died have been identified as Maquan Allen from Rancho Cucamonga and Derek Iratingabo from Arizona, both of them only 20 years old. Erica doesn't understand how a birthday celebration could end like this.
And it's just sad, because there's people that were expecting their kids to come home, and now they're not.
Once again, investigators are still trying to identify and locate the shooter or shooters.
The sound of gunfire began right around 8:45 last night and lasted about 13 seconds. And when it was over, 5 people had been shot in southeast Denver.
So sadly, one of the individuals who went to the hospital with a gunshot wound was pronounced deceased later last night or early in the morning.
Denver police say it all began when a person was assaulted at this apartment complex near Hamden and Dayton. According to police, the victim of the assault then left the complex.
Ashton neighbors on Girard Avenue heard back on May 10th, 13 seconds of gunshots. Police say that somebody was assaulted at the Gramercy apartment home complex, then came back that night with more people. They argued with a group inside the apartment, and people started shooting at each other. One man died at the complex. 4 others ended up in the hospital. Police told us tonight they have arrested 3 people tied to that shooting. Richard Kemp is being held on investigation of first-degree murder and attempted murder. They say he's the one who was also shot. Jasmine Marin is accused of accessory to murder. 3rd person under the age of 18, so no mugshot released, also accused of murder.
That's the face of a grieving mom-to-be. The father of her child was shot right before her eyes. I'm told she used her shirt as compression on his wounds. Sadly, he died.
Middle black, he was 20. He shot several times.
A witness didn't want to go on camera, told me a white SUV pulled up and 2 shooters got out, firing down the street here on 61st Place and Union in Inglewood. One of them took cover by this house. At least 40 shots were fired. Scooters still on the street from where children were playing just after 5:30.
Kids deserve the right to play. These kids can't ride their bikes, they can't ride their scooters, pretty much can't even sit on the porch. So they're not having the childhood that we were allowed to have.
A woman sitting inside this car told me her 26-year-old family member was sitting next to her in the back seat when she was shot in the arm. Bullets traveled into several parked cars. A 17-year-old male was also shot in the arm, along with a 21-year-old man. All of them are listed in good condition.
A vehicle approached on Union. 2 individuals exited that vehicle, and the 2 individuals began firing down the street, striking 5 individuals, 2 of which are now deceased.
And actually, when we were leaving that scene, we heard gunfire in the distance from that location. As of right now, no one is in police custody for this shooting.
I don't think anywhere in Philadelphia is safe right now.
Philadelphia police say a 17-year-old is dead. 2 other teens and a 7-year-old boy are wounded after at least 20 gunshots were fired at the corner of 21st Street and Nedrow Avenue just before 6 p.m. Police say the 7-year-old victim lives on the block. He was walking to the corner store with his family when he was caught in the crossfire, taking a bullet to the thigh, and is now recovering at the hospital with his mom at his bedside.
Tragedy all the way around of, again, having one of those young people lose their life tonight, but also having a 7-year-old that is going to, have not only the injuries that he sustained, but the mental trauma of dealing with, being shot at the age of 7. It's not normal.
One woman who did not want to be identified says she was cleaning her front porch when bullets started flying just feet from her front steps. She says she ran inside her home to take cover with her 1-year-old son and is now traumatized by what she witnessed.
It's really upsetting, especially because after it happened, I looked through the window and I saw the guy laying in there and he was dying. I called 911 and they say that they were coming. And then I heard that he passed away at the hospital. So it was really sad and upsetting.
Southeast 31, I've got 3 people shot, 4020 Southeast Street at the Steak and Shake.
When police arrived at the Steak and Shake on East Street and Hannah Avenue, they found 3 young men in the restaurant with gunshot wounds. But a 4th man, 21-year-old Artemis Boyd II, was dead in the parking lot.
There was another call for the 4020 Southeast Street. They heard 8 to 10 shots. Didn't see the shooter, but there's a white truck with the doors open and several subjects outside.
Police believe the shooting happened between the restaurant and the gas station next door. The 3 survivors ran inside Steak and Shake for help. Blood drops lead right up to the front door.
We have 4 people shot here tonight. This is not acceptable. All these individuals are young men. This is just not acceptable. There's an individual that's literally behind me laying dead on the ground, and that is, we have to explain to a family tonight why their loved one was shot and killed in a Steak and Shake parking lot.
Investigators were still on the scene Friday morning. Those evidence markers typically mark shell casings. Police say they recovered at least 2 guns at the scene and interviewed several witnesses.
Who is carrying out these mass shootings? Young white men.
19-year-old Abram Collin, 20-year-old Angel Ochoa, and 19-year-old Aiden Arvizo were all arrested Thursday after the Yuma Police Department used forensic evidence to connect the armed robbery to the house party shooting. All 3 young men appeared in court for the first time this afternoon. 19-year-old Abram Collin was arrested and booked for shooting and killing 20-year-old Andy Black Thunder and 19-year-old Danny Garcia at a house party in the Beliza neighborhood on Saturday, May 13th.
They're alleging that you've committed 2 separate offenses, both alleging murder in the first degree.
This in connection with the arrest of 20-year-old Angel Ochoa and 19-year-old Aiden Arvizo, who were each booked on multiple felonies, including armed robbery, aggravated assault, and burglary, which took place near Cibola High School and the Valley Aquatic Center. The crimes happened 1 week apart, and police are currently testing the weapons from the armed robbery to see if they were the same guns used in the mass shooting.
19-year-old Kakoa Bissonette has been arrested and charged with 4 counts of reckless conduct with a deadly weapon. Police say he and 21-year-old Emmanuel Sale were wearing hoods with their faces covered when they opened fire at a party on Ahern Street last month, injuring 4.
If they are to be brazen enough to do this in broad daylight in a crowd full of people at a graduation party where children are present, where will they stop? Right? What's off limits? If that's not off limits, then I'm not sure what is.
Sale and 2 others, 22-year-old Trenton Liggins and 20-year-old Griffin O'Neill, had already been arrested. Liggins was allegedly spotted in the getaway car, and O'Neill is accused of being the driver. According to court paperwork, that same getaway car was tracked near Bissonette's home in Massachusetts, and surveillance video from a drugstore shows him getting out of the car wearing the same shoes the unidentified suspect was wearing in this photo while police had been looking for him.
Very pleased that we got these 4 people in what, in my opinion, are very dangerous human beings.
Chief Aldenberg says all 4 men had been known to police, and the 4 of them had been arrested in 2021 after a riot at the Red Arrow Diner. He also says gun violence of any kind will not be tolerated in the city.
To let these 4 gentlemen serve as an example to others that may be considering engaging in similar behavior.
Sweeping up the pieces after a tragic incident downtown.
It's so hard to hear these shootings and innocent people being hurt.
According to LMPD, 5 people were shot, one of them killed, around 11 Saturday night on 4th Street near West Chestnut Street. That's near the Louisville Palace and just a block from 4th Street Live. The Jefferson County coroner identified the man killed as 22-year-old DeMonte Jaquan Tyreek Marshall. Another one of the victims remains in critical condition.
Yeah, it's very sad.
According to police, a group of people began fighting inside a restaurant before it spilled out onto the street, right in front of Sicilian's Pizza and Pasta. Co-owner Jeff Koppel said multiple people had drawn guns and began firing.
While you were sleeping, 4 victims were shot in the Moortown and Werner Park neighborhoods just around 12 a.m. I'm Angelia Allen. Now, Shreveport Crime Stoppers police got a call midnight in the 300 block of Hollywood Avenue near the Southern Classic restaurant, where officers arrived on the scene. They found 4 men with non-life-threatening injuries. No arrests have been made. If you have any information, you are asked to call Shreveport Crime Stoppers.
I was 5 and he was 6. We rode on horses made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white. He would always win the fight. Bang, bang. He shot
3 suspects arrested in Sacramento shooting that injured a baby, child and 2 adults. 2 men and a teenage boy have been arrested on suspicion of the attempted murder of 2 children, the Sacramento Police Department said Wednesday, following a shooting in May that left a total of 4 victims injured. Just after 10 p.m. on May 13, police responded to reports of a shooting in the area of Del Paso Boulevard and Fairfield Streets in Old North Sacramento. Officers found 2 juvenile victims, each with at least 1 non-life-threatening gunshot wound, police said. The victims were described by police as a 10-year-old boy and a 1-year-old girl, the Sacramento Bee reported at the time. After those 2 were transported to the hospital, officers found an additional 2 adults at an area hospital with non-life-threatening wounds, authorities said. Detectives identified 2 men, Devon Lewis Mills, 19, and Demetrius Smith, 20, who were suspected of being involved in the shooting. A warrant was issued, and they were arrested July 5. Lewis, Mills, and Smith were arraigned in Sacramento Superior Court on July 7 and July 10, respectively. Both men are being held at the Sacramento County Main Jail and are ineligible for bail. A male juvenile was also arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, police said. He was booked into juvenile hall.
A mass shooting in East Augusta on Sandbar Ferry Road and East Boundary. It's right where the Outcast Motorcycle Club is located. That beef, he says, started in another state and played out during the Outcast cookout.
It is our belief that this incident stemmed from an incident that recently occurred in Florida involving the Outcast, and the Thug Riders came to Augusta in retaliation to that incident.
The sheriff's office arrested and charged 12 people with murder and aggravated assault. You see 10 people on your screen now of those 12. 4 were taken to the hospital. 3 remained there. 2 people died from the shooting.
4 of the suspects were members of the Outcast Motorcycle Club, and 8 were members of Thug Riders. 13 motorcycles were confiscated, 1 vehicle, 10 firearms were recovered from either inside the clubhouse or of the vehicles or at nearby businesses where the suspect had tossed them while they were fleeing.
The sheriff, who went to the scene when it happened, described it as extremely large. 150 shell casings spread throughout the block and neighborhoods with kids all nearby. He says it was a targeted attack, but the office has intel that regional affiliates are mobilizing and coming to Augusta to retaliate.
Shreveport police tracked down the man they say shot and wounded 4 people outside a sports bar last month. Police arrested 22-year-old Edric Pouncey on 4 accounts of aggravated battery. He's accused of wounding 3 men and a woman outside the Timeout sports bar on Mansfield Road. We're told back on May 14th, police responded to the bar on reports of a shooting. Officers eventually tracked down 4 victims at different hospitals. Their injuries were not life-threatening. Detectives later learned there had been some kind of argument, and Pouncey was identified as the reported shooter. He remains in jail without bond.
4 people sent to the hospital after a shooting in Hazleton. What we know about what happened is our top story tonight on Newswatch 16 at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Chelsea Strube. We begin tonight in Luzerne County, where a shooting in Hazleton sent 4 young men between the ages of 19 and 22 years old to the hospital. The police chief tells Newswatch 16 it took place around 5 o'clock this evening in the area of 11th Street and Manhattan Court. The chief says it was an isolated incident and there is no danger to the public. Everyone believed to be involved in this incident is in custody. Of the 4 men shot, 2 are in critical condition, according to the chief. This is still an active investigation at this time here in Luzerne County.
6 young people are recovering from gunshots in Anderson, and police are trying to find whoever pulled the trigger. Someone started firing within a crowd that was fighting near West 16th Street and Madison Avenue. It happened just after 2 yesterday morning. Officers pushed through the crowd and found 1 victim shot in the leg. That person was taken to the hospital, and police say that person is stable. Police say 5 other victims checked themselves into hospitals with gunshot wounds and have since been released. Officers tell us the victims are between 14 and 21 years old. No arrests have been announced.
Montgomery police are investigating an overnight left 1 person dead and 3 others injured. Take a look. This is video from the scene last night around midnight. Police were called to the 5500 block of Atlanta Highway in reference to shots being fired. MPD says 28-year-old Jarquis Willis of Montgomery sustained a fatal gunshot wound and was pronounced dead at a local hospital. 2 other adult males sustained non-life-threatening gunshot wounds, and 1 adult female sustained a life-threatening gunshot wound. Investigators did make contact with the injured victims at local hospitals who had been driven there by personal vehicles. The shooting is still under investigation. No word tonight from police on a motive or any suspects.
I heard a pop, 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 a short pause, and then pop, 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 and then it ended.
I went outside to see what was going on, and then I just heard multiple rounds start going off.
Now, police describe a wide and complex scene spanning more than a quarter of a mile. The first call for shots fired came in just before 11 a.m. local time. They say the 18-year-old shooter basically just walked around and fired randomly at whatever entered into his head to shoot at. Despite police responding within minutes, 3 were killed and multiple hurt, including 2 police officers. The shooter was killed, but the impact this event is having on this small city of roughly 50,000 people is immense.
I don't even know what to say on an event like this. How do you address it? I have my deepest condolences to the family of the deceased. I'm unbelievably proud of responding officers with the threat that they faced.
Less than 2 weeks ago, it played out outside a local bar. One person killed, 3 others hurt after someone opened fire. This was at the Pravat Social Club on UTSA Boulevard near Vance Jackson.
Now tonight, police have arrested someone in the case, and that suspect walked right in front of our cameras earlier today. We want to show you 34-year-old Noah James Patterson. Police say that surveillance footage helped them find him. They say that on May 18th, 2 groups of people were fighting in the parking lot just outside of that club.
And that's when police say Patterson pulled out a gun and shot another man in the stomach. That man later died. Patterson charged with homicide, 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
San Antonio police are asking for help to find Seth Terrence Rocket. Investigators say on May 18th of this year, Devin King was shot and killed at a nightclub off of Vance Jackson near UTSA Boulevard. One of the 2 suspected gunmen has been arrested, and now Rocket is wanted as well.
It all started just after 10:30 last night, police responding to 2 separate shootings within 10 minutes of each other. Officers say they responded to the scene of multiple people shot just before 10:45 on North 34th Street near Bank Street. When officers arrived, they found 4 women who had been shot. 3 of them were 17 years old. All were transported to the hospital where they are expected to survive.
Because she told her mama she wanted to go out like a diamond.
The latest in a spree of violence against women in New Orleans. Relatives mourn the loss of Ronisha Anderson, killed Saturday night in a quadruple shooting that, according to police, also took the life of a 17-year-old boy and injured a 20-year-old man and a 13-year-old boy.
I feel like it was my fault. Mom, everybody saying it's not.
The victim's aunt says she asked her niece to give her husband a ride to the barber shop, but he wasn't able to get the haircut.
By the dude not cutting his hair, I brought him home. When he brought him home, he was already shooting.
New Orleans police say Ronisha Anderson's infant son was riding with her in the car as the gunfire rang out.
But there are some people who seem to be so inclined to violence that they don't care about who's around them, who's with the person who's to be the victim of their crime, and we've got to do something to get in contact with and penalize those people.
The shooting happened on Beechcraft Street, part of New Orleans Councilman Eugene Green's district. Police say a 17-year-old boy was killed at the scene and that Anderson was found shot inside a car that came to a stop about a half-mile away in the 3900 block of Downman Road. Police say she died at the hospital. Green met with Fox 8 at the scene of another young mother's death, where 33-year-old Sully Simmons was shot with her 2-year-old son in the back seat less than a month ago. He says the NOPD has protective measures for witnesses to share information without fear of retaliation.
Perpetrators seem to have no regard for their particular situations, especially involving their children. There's no excuse for it. It's not acceptable. It's not tolerable. Using violence to solve a problem is just not something that we're ever going to accept.
Meanwhile, Anderson's family is the latest left picking up the pieces of another tragedy and hoping for justice.
That's all I have. Who they gonna kill me? My baby birthday on the 29th this month. I'm scared to give a party. I'm scared they're gonna come shooting some more. I can't do it. But I'm not scared. They gonna make my brother tell me move. I ain't moving.
Police said 2 suspects, one with a rifle and the other with a handgun, are believed to have carried out the shootings. The investigation remains open.
Shootouts are similar to Wild West. Broad daylight, face to face without a vest. You know the episodes, thugs camouflage the spectacles. Please God to save the lives that the devil sold. See, it was written but was never told. People Jews, black man is even better than gold. Niggas roll with iron, police roll in hot pursuit, trying to stop the little nigga. Fuck Jay, cock and shoot.
New details just released in a shooting that injured 4 people in LA's Westlake district. LAPD says the victims, 3 men and 1 woman, were standing outside near Bixel and Ingram Street. The suspect approached the group from their vehicle and opened fire. The victims were later discovered inside the first floor of a high-rise apartment building. All victims were taken to the hospital and they are expected to survive. The suspect was last seen driving away in a white SUV.
Sheriff Craig Weber says 7 people were shot and 2 people were hurt as hundreds sought cover. Of the victims, the ages range from 17 to 25. Of the 9, 1 person remains hospitalized. The sheriff says it was by the grace of God there were no fatalities. The family who lives here at this home on Highland Drive in Thibodaux says they were hosting a party to celebrate their relative's high school graduation when the unthinkable happened.
Like I say, we couldn't tell you what happened, ma'am. Everybody just having a good time and everybody just heard gunshots. We didn't see no arguments. We didn't see none of that. We just heard gunshots.
The family says more than 200 people were in attendance, most of them in the street when the shots were fired. The host and some partygoers say they didn't know the shooters. Lafourche Parish Sheriff Craig Weber says deputies arrived on scene within 5 minutes from receiving the 911 call. Once there, investigators recovered 1 handgun and 12 casings.
18-year-old Keyshawn Taylor of Schriever is accused of shooting 7 people at a graduation party on May 21st. Police got a warrant for his arrest and took him into custody while in court for an unrelated incident. Taylor's now facing multiple counts of attempted second-degree murder. The second gunman has not been arrested yet.
It's bothering me softly. Something kind of worrying me. Yeah. Whatever it is, nah, I can't leave it alone, no.
That's correct, Pat. That news conference included Jackson County Prosecutor Jean Peters Baker, Mayor Quentin Lucas, and also KCPD Chief Stacey Graves. Now, Jean Peters Baker says that Clinton was targeting one of the victims who died, but the other 4 were caught in the crossfire. Jean Peters Baker also says there are more shooters out there, but she called Clinton the main culprit. The victims shot and killed at Climax Lounge are Jason McConnell, who was shot and killed working the door, Antoinette Brinson, a mother of 3, and Clarence Henderson. Peters Baker says Henderson was the intended target after a dispute. She also claims guns were allowed inside the club.
You know, City Hall has their role, the prosecutor has her role, and so do police. But so do these clubs. You know, if you're going to operate that type of business, you have an obligation as well to keep your patrons safe.
Now, Clinton was charged with 2 counts of first-degree assault for the 2 surviving victims. We're told they have potentially lifelong injuries, and officials say witnesses and surveillance video helped them catch Clinton, but they say they need to catch more shooters, so they're asking for people with any tips to reach out to them.
Owner Florencio Correa is frustrated by what's happening in front of his business.
Literally right in front. You could see all the tire marks.
The marks, he says, are a reminder of a dangerous and unruly weekend near the intersection of 180th and East Valley Highway. Police say there was illegal racing and 5 people hurt in a shooting early Sunday morning.
Bullet hole. It looks like it came in sideways.
Businesses on both sides of the street became part of the crime scene.
So a bullet went in through here and hit my passenger headrest.
It's damage that's daunting for this owner who's still unpacking.
Trying to see how we're going to arrange that whole section and utilize the space.
He just moved in 2 months ago.
We were having this activity up in Seattle, and that's the main reason we moved here, to kind of get away from that.
But now, every Friday and Saturday, he says there's street races like this one.
Non-stop all night from 12 to 4 in the morning.
Surveillance video shows the moments gunfire rang out and people ran for their lives. More than a dozen hit by bullets in downtown Clarksdale.
It sounded like a war zone.
Robert Franklin was just one of several people ducking and hiding to avoid the spray of bullets just feet away early Sunday morning.
Just like, you know, in the movies or at a gun range, it was totally out of place. Like, this is not supposed to happen here.
Clarksdale police say 14 people were shot in 3 separate shootings on Delta Avenue, West 2nd Street, and hit at the intersection of Friars Point Road and Florence Avenue. Police say 2 gangs, one from Tunica County and another from Coahoma County, are to blame.
It was a fight at the concert. They left the concert and everybody just gathered up at the 300 block of Delta. And that's where the first incident occurred.
Sergeant George Johnson with the Clarksdale Police Department says 12 of the 14 were shot on Delta Avenue, feet away from businesses and homes.
At this time, we don't have any suspects, but we're on the verge of closing in on the case.
One day later, shell casings and bullets can be found in front of businesses, leaving many in the community shaken up and wanting those responsible caught quickly.
Even though that crowd is there and maybe the likelihood of those crowds resulting in violence, it wasn't everyone being violent, it was just a few people. And if we can get those people off the streets and in prison for a long time, that will make everyone else safer.
Hey there, Mark. You know, the shootings are very concerning for many reasons, not the least of which is almost everybody involved in this story is a teenager.
All we know is shots being fired.
Monday evening, May 22nd.
Shots fired outside. Somebody's been hit.
Gunfire erupts on Beach Street in Columbia.
Looked out and there was a gun in the street. Guys were wrestling for it.
This woman hears the gunfire.
That's pretty scary.
And watches a shooting victim run between some houses.
One of them was kind of like running, like bent over like that.
According to Columbia police, a fight in the street erupts into gunfire, with 5 teenagers being hit.
I knew a man died, but I didn't realize that there was that many shots.
Ultimately, 19-year-old Thomas Kaiser is killed, and these 2 19-year-olds are arrested in connection with the crimes.
What do you think about that bullet hole?
I'm telling you, they need to get a hold on everything around here.
6 days later, it happens again, this time on Westview Street.
Getting worse and worse.
It was a beautiful night last night, and people tell me the park was packed when those bullets went flying. Columbus police say the shooting happened here at this basketball court, not too far away from a children's playground.
Kids are always here, and that was pretty close.
Jim McKenzie and his wife bring their grandson to the playground at Lincoln Park all the time, but after hearing about what happened last night, that might change.
He likes it. In the daytime, it's pretty good, but at night, we kind of wouldn't probably come over anymore.
Around 7:40 Tuesday night, cops were called to the park and found 4 people shot at the basketball court. 3 of them were airlifted to Indianapolis and at last check are in critical condition. The 4th victim was treated at Columbus Regional Hospital. Later that night, deputies in Johnson County arrested 18-year-old Alexander Parker after stopping a car that they say matched the description of the suspect's vehicle.
We heard a loud boom. It was just boom.
Then early this morning, 18-year-old Edmarius Oates was also arrested in connection to the shooting after a SWAT standoff at this home in a normally quiet neighborhood.
To hear when these things happen, it's kind of freaky. It doesn't seem like it should happen here.
Both suspects are facing charges of aggravated battery and criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon. Police still don't know what led to the shooting.
You don't know who's going to ride through and shoot.
Today, parkgoers say they're worried, not only about their safety, but more so about how people are choosing to solve their problems.
It just bothers me, like she said, that people's first reaction is to turn to violence and weapons.
Nash, Texas. 4 family members have died and the suspect is in custody following a 2-hour standoff late Tuesday morning in Nash, Texas. Bowie County Sheriff's deputies said. Cesar Alalda, 18, surrendered after a 2-hour standoff on Lemon Acres Lane on the west side of Texarkana. Deputies said they received a 911 call about a man harming people inside a home on Lemon Acres Lane and threatening suicide by cop. Several local agencies responded to the call and a negotiator talked the suspect into surrendering. They did an amazing job of getting him to walk outside and surrender peacefully. We were able to take him into custody at that time, Chief Kelly Dial said. The names and ages of the victims have not been released. Alalda was booked into the bi-state jail for capital murder of multiple persons.
Why mass shootings in the United States are almost always carried out by white men.
5 wounded by gunfire late Thursday night in Baltimore, including 4 in Bel Air Edison, police say. 4 people in their 20s suffered non-life-threatening wounds in a shooting late Thursday night in northeast Baltimore, police said in an email early Friday morning. At approximately 10:55 p.m., Baltimore police officers responded to the 3300 block of Ramona Avenue in Bel Air Edison to investigate a call for a shooting.
Mesa police arrested 20-year-old Iron Byers following that deadly night over the weekend. Originally accused of killing 3 people and injuring another in 4 separate shootings in Mesa, Following that arrest of Byers, police were able to locate the firearm, and police now believe Byers is tied to another victim in another city. While looking into the bullet casings at those crime scenes, their investigation led them to this canal in Phoenix near 24th and Thomas, the site of another deadly shooting that happened earlier in the day, and now police believe that the bullet casings found at this scene similar to the ones found in Mesa. According to court documents, police believe the deadly shooting spree began at that canal in Phoenix. The paperwork says Byers admitted to walking with the victim before shooting him in the head because he was abusing fentanyl, which he didn't like. Later in the evening at Beverly Park in Mesa, police say he shot and killed a man at the south side of the park. The document goes on to say Byers took the light rail with the third victim, and after getting off and walking down Country Club, shoots the victim after talking about which drugs they wanted to smoke. For the fourth victim, it states he started talking to him. The victim said he was homeless and not from around here, and the victim is then shot in the head. The fifth victim, the only one to survive, was walking with the suspect on Main Street in Mesa when he got mad and shot her in the face. Mesa police just releasing the names of the victims in Mesa. We have 41-year-old Julian Cox, 41-year-old Stephen Young, 40-year-old John Swain, and 36-year-old Angela Fonseca.
What is it that makes white men so prone to this kind of behavior?
Police are identifying the suspect wanted in connection to a triple homicide at a Woodbridge, Virginia home. 28-year-old Daniel Quinones is accused of shooting 4 people, killing 3 of them. The incident happened last week in a home on Birchdale Avenue. Police are asking for the public's help in finding the suspect. A $10,000 reward is being offered for information that leads to an arrest.
5 people are hurt after a shooting, the victims all between 18 and 21. It happened during a gathering at a home in the Fairway Oaks neighborhood. Police say 4 people are expected to be okay. The 5th is still being treated. Glenn County Police is investigating.
Some frightening moments in the middle of the day, and many people were too scared to talk about what they witnessed. The good news, everyone who was injured is expected to survive. They range in age from 38 to 63.
One male shot upper left arm, second victim gunshot wound, right leg. We got a third victim shot in the chest as well. I just look at it close.
You got one of these victims that walked into shock trauma.
They are not afraid of arrest in jail, and they are not afraid of dying. And when you have people like that, they will commit very, very violent and brazen acts. It speaks to the culture that we are all working to change.
The victims are all expected to survive. In the past 48 hours, at least 13 people have been shot in Baltimore City. WJZ has learned police are reviewing video from the scene.
Detectives in the Central District need your help identifying a suspect in a non-fatal shooting that took place on May 26, 2023, around 3:30 p.m. on the 200 block of North Utah Street. The suspect, a black male in a light blue t-shirt and sweatpants, is first observed being handed a gun inside of a convenience store. After inspecting the weapon, he quickly races down the street in pursuit of the victim. Upon meeting the victim, he fires multiple shots in his direction, striking both the victim as well as bystanders. He starts to run off and then turns around to fire more shots after seeing the victim starting to get up. The suspect then flees the scene. There is currently a $4,000 reward through the Metro Crime Stoppers of Maryland for any information that leads to an arrest. Call Central District Detectives at 410-396-2411.
At a gas station near 49th in Villard, the nearly month-long search for a shooting suspect ends in a chase.
You know, come on. We got to do better than this. You know, it has to get better than this. It really does.
That was a neighbor's response the morning of May 26th, just after midnight near 38th and Roberts. Milwaukee police say a group of girls showed up to a house planning to fight another group of girls over boys and not being good friends. Then someone opened fire, hitting 4 teenagers who were all females.
This is not the way of handling those types of disputes.
We stopped by the house Tuesday and found bullet holes in the neighbor's car and house. The criminal complaint says officers recovered 16 spent casings fired from a semi-automatic rifle, eventually tracing them to 17-year-old Avant Turner, which brings us back to the gas station. On On Thursday, surveillance video shows undercover officers spotting a stolen car. The 4 people inside run off, but officers arrest all 4. They say Turner was in the back on the driver's side. And inside the car, the complaint says officers found a semi-automatic rifle directly where Turner was seated. He faces 6 total charges, including 4 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety with use of a dangerous weapon.
This is Andra Williams. Columbus Police Chief Joseph Daughtry says he is now Columbus' most wanted fugitive after last night's shooting. Chief Daughtry says they need your help to find Williams. The chief says he is wanted for the murder of Devin Thompson. Thompson has been identified as the shooting victim that died from last night's shooting. I talked to locals who work nearby today about the shooting, and they're worried.
A man is no longer facing a murder charge for his involvement in the Red River biker gang shooting. Jacob Castillo was charged after shots rang out between 2 suspected gangs, the Banditos and the Water Dogs, during a motorcycle rally on May 27th. 3 people were killed, 5 others, including Castillo, wounded. Investigators believe the Banditos were upset because a Water Dog member posed for a wedding photo with the Banditos' rival, the Mongols. According to court documents, Castillo admitted to shooting one of the deceased, Damian Bro, but claimed that Bro attacked him first. Castillo was due in court today for a pretrial detention hearing, but we've learned prosecutors have dismissed this case without prejudice because the investigation, they say, is ongoing.
A typically fun-filled weekend with car shows, reunions, and block parties turned violent after 5 people were shot late Saturday night in the small town of Marianna, Arkansas. One of those people died.
Pretty much everybody in the town shocked because it happened, but at the end of the day, there's stuff been going on in our town.
LaShawn Gitsbay was a vendor at the car show. He says after the show ended, the crowd turned Chestnut Street into a block party.
People was parking their cars, and the crowd grew bigger and bigger.
That was until shortly after 11 when the Marianna Police Department was called to reports of a shooting in the parking lot of O'Reilly's Auto Parts. When they arrived, they found 5 victims spread out over 3 scenes.
Oh, it was somebody up here that was shot. The young lady, she was sitting here for about an hour. Shot in the leg.
4 people were injured and taken to various hospitals. 3 were in critical condition. The 5th victim, 37-year-old Alenda Bender of Jonesboro, Arkansas, died after being rushed to the hospital. The man we spoke with said while most of the victims are not from Marianna, it was locals that stepped up to help after the shots rang out. The city has a population of just over 4,000. Locals say tens of thousands were in town for the Memorial Day weekend, overwhelming the city's small police force.
The city didn't have enough help, but at the same time, it took the locals to get everybody, get the ambulance in.
Police in Marianna would only confirm to WREG the number of people shot and the 1 death. Detectives with the Arkansas State Police are leading the investigation. In Marianna.
White people must be stopped.
The Cashapp County Sheriff's Office is trying to figure out what led to 5 people being shot on Dentville Road Sunday morning. Neighbors were awakened by the gunfire, and they say the scene was nothing short of chaotic.
I hear all the gunshot out there, and I saw at least 2 or 3 policemen out there trying to clear the scene up, trying to clear the highway to get everybody to leave. Heard the gunshot, then I got up and looked out the door, and all the police and everybody around here.
Cashapp County Sheriff's Office says they received complaints about the party around midnight. When officers arrived at the scene, they say hundreds began running from the property. That's when gunfire erupted.
They were shooting from one end to the other. There was just so many people. I never see stuff happen like this.
Lawrence Miller tells 12 News his niece and nephew threw the party. He says he tried to end the party fearing something bad would happen.
When you have a crowd, they gonna show out. And so I told them, I will for them not to have here, but they wouldn't listen to it.
Residents say they're shocked something so violent could happen in their typically quiet neighborhood.
It's a nice neighborhood. You know, it's out from the city about 4 or 5 miles, and you see things in Jackson that happen like that, but you never think it happened in your front yard.
Cashapp County Sheriff's Office says there are currently no known suspects or motive. They are asking the public to come forward with any information.
Police say someone shot 3 15-year-old boys on Mulberry Street in Frankfurt. This happened late Sunday night. They went to the hospital and are expected to be okay. Police also found a 66-year-old man dead at the scene. He had been shot in the head. Investigators are still sorting out what happened.
Chester police detectives back on the scene today looking for more evidence of last night's shooting of 8 teenagers.
It was more of people hanging out, Memorial Day celebration, and the time gunshots rang out.
The shooting happened around 11:30 Sunday night in parking lot A outside of Subaru Park. The party of 100 or more teens swelled when it spread on social media.
The group went down there. They started going Facebook Live, started doing social media, and more people did start to pull up.
Witnesses who were there tell Fox 29 there were dozens of shots fired in a chaotic scene. Police say they are unclear how many shooters.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. That's really unfortunate.
In a spot more popular for catching Delaware River catfish, people enjoying Memorial Day weekend along Chester's waterfront say this is one place they come to get away from city violence.
I'm scared because, I don't want that to happen to my family.
Chester police say they've been working around the clock to catch whoever fired the shots. They're hoping it's not a sign of things to come going into the summer months.
Violence is down. You can check our stats, you can check our numbers. I'm constantly working with the Pennsylvania State Police. I have details in place to combat gun violence, but I will tell you this, we are out there and we are watching.
That 17-year-old boy remains hospitalized tonight in critical condition. The other victims have been treated and released from the hospital. Police tell Fox 29 they are making progress on this investigation, but are still looking for any witnesses who may have seen something Sunday night. In Chester.
Syracuse police confirming a 44-year-old man is dead after a Memorial Day gathering that people who went tell us was peaceful until it went wrong. In a grassy lot along Bellevue Avenue in Syracuse, remnants of a party, plastic cups and grills. A party people say was full of families who will now remember it ending violently.
On a beautiful day when people should just be enjoying the company of each other, we lost another life in the city of Syracuse, and we're certainly thinking about the victim's family and friends at this moment.
Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh says the search is on for those behind the shooting, though right now it's unclear to police if this was random or targeted.
Clearly something went wrong yesterday. We're still determining, both from from a police investigation perspective, but also from a community perspective, what the circumstances were, whether or not they could have been avoided.
It's people that's malicious, came by, seen they're out there, and I believe shot them up.
This as the summer season inches closer.
It is historically a time when we see an increase in violence. That's something that we're very much focused on.
As you can see behind me, everything is quiet here between the areas of Gender Road and Pintail Creek Drive, where the Meadows Apartments was. That's quite the contrary to more than an hour and a half ago. This entire section was blocked off with police tape. There were flares set up, but as you can see now, the situation is quiet. Now, the reason they were here was because they were responding to a call around midnight last night of a shooting at a block party, more than which 100 people attended thanks to it being announced on social media. Paramedics and police immediately arrived on the scene, where several people were reported to be injured. 3 people were transported to Mount Carmel East Hospital, 1 was taken to Nationwide Children's, and another was treated at the scene. Detectives told NBC4 that all are in stable condition. It is currently unclear how the gunfire began or the motive behind it. As mentioned before, the situation here is quiet, but we will reveal more information to us as it is revealed. Local for you in Canal Winchester.
The Sheriff's Office says 1 person is dead and 5 others are injured after shots rang out near a nightclub in the Hollywood area. That shooting happened just before 10 o'clock last night on Storage Road near Churchill Road. Now here is a look at some video from last night. We'll have that in just a second. Deputies say 6 people were shot near a nightclub, including 1 who died on scene. The other 5 are being treated at the hospital. Now, just hours before, the Sheriff's Office tells us they were called out to that same area for reports of a large crowd. When they got there, officials say they found a neighborhood party but didn't see anything illegal happening at that time. No arrests have been made yet.
A week after 9 people were shot on the Hollywood Broadwalk, police have made their final arrest. Officers handcuffed 18-year-old Lionel Jean Charles Jr. and placed him into the back of a waiting cruiser at the Hollywood Police Department Monday afternoon.
As of today, 5 people involved in a senseless act of violence have been arrested and 5 handguns have been seized.
Along with Jean Charles Jr., 2 others, 16-year-old Ariel Paul and 15-year-old Jordan Burton, turned themselves in over the weekend. All 3 are facing 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, 8 counts of attempted second-degree murder, along with a weapons charge. According to a detailed 13-page arrest form, 2 groups were arguing. Jean Charles Jr., Paul, and Burton were part of 1 group, and officers say they pulled out guns and started shooting. This image shows a trio with guns in hand. They allegedly shot 2 people in a second group they were arguing with, along with 7 others that were on the beach.
It would lead us to believe that the other group did not produce any weapons.
Images also show the suspects taking off following the shooting, with Jean Charles ditching his yellow hoodie. 18-year-olds Keyshawn Paul Stewart and Morgan DeLuche were arrested last week on firearms charges. Police say they were not responsible for any of the victims' injuries.
Somebody's on the floor shot. Someone's on the floor shot.
It was utter chaos when the gunfire erupted. Bullets went flying and people ran for their lives. 5 adults and 4 minors, including a 16-month-old baby boy, were wounded. They were all raced to the hospital, and since the shooting, 8 out of the 9 have been discharged.
We do have some breaking news we want to get to right now. A gunman opens fire at 70th and Halsted, shooting 4 people in Englewood. Chicago police say a group of individuals were on the sidewalk when someone started shooting from a gray Durango. A 36-year-old man is in critical condition, shot in the head. A 34-year-old man suffered 3 gunshot wounds to the body. He's also in critical condition. 2 other victims are expected to be okay. No arrests have been made.
Most of the mass shooters in this country have been young white males.
An 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 19-year-old are dead after a shooting in Lebanon Tuesday night. The victims are Jesus Perez Salom, Sebastian Perez Salom, and Joshua Lugo Perez.
As the mayor,
I am heartbroken for our community. 22-year-old Alex Santos and a juvenile, James Fernandez Reyes, were arrested in connection with the shooting on the 400 block of North 5th Street. Police say around 10 p.m. Tuesday, the two targeted one of the victims, firing off at least 27 shots.
It appears at the early stages of this investigation that one of the victims was targeted. The other 3 victims were uninvolved.
The suspects left the scene but were tracked down by police a few hours later. Santos was found hiding inside a home before attempting to run from officers, and Reyes was found hiding nearby. Inside the home, police say they found multiple guns, one of them matching the shell casings that were found where the shooting happened. These shootings are unacceptable. The district attorney's office says Santos was on house arrest at the time and was wearing a house arrest bracelet when the shooting happened. He was out on bail for 2 separate incidents. One of them aggravated assault for allegedly shooting a man multiple times, and the other for illegally possessing a firearm, among others. The mayor says this kind of gun violence is rare for the city of Lebanon. We do not want to see any gun violence in our city, and certainly not among our children, or some of our most vulnerable population.
Street. It was broad daylight in the city of Cincinnati. Many shots fired. You can see the placards on the ground back there behind us. It's under investigation now. We have 4 individuals who were shot. 1 adult in his 20s went to UC Hospital. 3 juveniles, 10, 14, and 15 years old, went to Children's Hospital. At this time, none of those injuries appear to be life-threatening.
21-year-old Tyrone Washington and 21-year-old Trayshawn Getty stood quietly as Cumberland County District Court Judge Cherry Seiler Mack outlined the possible punishment they face if convicted.
They carry a maximum up to life imprisonment, so I need to make sure that he is appointed an attorney.
The 2 men are accused of shooting 4 people yesterday outside a home on Rembrandt Drive. 2 of the victims died.
What little we know about the allegations at this point, I can't talk a lot about the pending facts, was that the parties did know each other and that the disagreement was a fairly minor one and one that had just developed.
That minor disagreement led to the death of 24-year-old Alzi Diamond and 18-year-old Aljari Elliott. He's the second 18-year-old student who was getting ready to graduate to recently be murdered. 18-year-old Tatiana Haywood was killed 2 weeks ago by her boyfriend in a murder-suicide. The district attorney is alarmed by the number of young people using weapons to settle disputes.
That is something, a trend I think we've seen in recent years, is the offenders get younger and younger. And, they are carrying a weapon as if it's a fashion accessory.
The DA hopes the arrest of these 2 suspects brings some closure to grieving families and sends a message to others thinking about committing crimes with guns.
We are going to aggressively prosecute those involved in gun violence, and at the same time, we've also got to educate our young people about the dangers of gun violence.
Both Getty and Washington were given court-appointed attorneys. Right now, both being held here in the Cumberland County Detention Center without bond.
This crime scene tape a painful reminder of the senseless violence taking over the streets of Cleveland. The latest incident overnight here on East 123rd Street near St. Clair. 4 people shot in a drive-by. Cleveland EMS tells 19 News they were rushed to university hospitals in critical condition. Sadly, a 31-year-old woman didn't make it.
All they said, she been shot. She been shot. I didn't know it was a girl. And then she said, my chest hurt. And everybody was on the phone calling 911.
Mamie Belaney lives next door to where it all happened. She knows some of the victims, and she tells me what started as a night of fun was interrupted with gunshots.
I knew something was going to happen last night because they start having the firecrackers early. And I said, I know I'm old, but I'm so sad, and I hope the guy make it.
As police scour the city searching for whoever pulled the trigger, people who live in this Forest Hills neighborhood, fearful the violence in Cleveland streets is starting to spin out of control.
Oh yes, it's a terrible loss. I don't even know what to say. This is getting worse in Cleveland.
Does that make you worried for the summer at all?
Oh yes, because it ain't even warmed up yet.
As a family now mourns the loss of a young woman, 3 other families praying their loved ones will pull through. Cleveland police hoping someone will come forward with information to put a killer behind bars. In Cleveland.